poverty. Poverty is not an issue that only concerns certain individuals or developing countries. Poverty is something that the whole community, global community, should be concerned about. In that, we're going to introduce to you our presentation about the first sustainable goal, which is no poverty. And I'm Yesel Kim.
I'm Juno.
I'm Ziyan and Suyan, and the presentation begins.
It's true that extreme poverty rates have decreased more than half since 1990. While this is a remarkable achievement, 1 in 5 people in developing regions still live on less than $1 a day. Poverty is more than the lack of income and resources to ensure a sustainable livelihood. Hunger and malnutrition, lack of limited access to education, as well as social discrimination is the reality of poverty. So, according to the UN, the goal No Poverty aims to end poverty in all its forms everywhere by ensuring that everyone is protected against unemployment and has access to medical care, and also by ensuring that money is allocated to carry out policies that will give everyone equal access to social and economic opportunities. By the way, this picture is the seniors living in the hillside villages who are suffering from really severe poverty, which we will elaborate on that later. Next page, please. Now, why did we identify no poverty as the most significant goal? No poverty is not an issue concerning just a single individual, but it concerns the whole global community. Also, realizing that the 17 global goals are interconnected to one another, it's obvious that the achievement in no poverty should be a priority to achieve the other goals as well. Besides, despite the fact that all goals are significant in its own way, the other goals do not seem to concern the life of individuals under a life and death situation. For example, Goal 4, quality education, takes a really vital role. However, it does not concern the life and death situations. Matter.
Now, to give a more firm reason to why we actually think that the first SDG goal of no poverty is the most significant goal that should be achieved by the time of 2030, we are going to introduce to you some statistical evidence that demonstrates how poverty is of a great global issue that not concerns only a small number of individuals or developing countries, but actually a whole global community. Now, according to the UN, an individual is considered to be living in poverty when one lives under the circumstance of having to live under a fixed, extreme low budget of $1.25 a day. And this is a graph that illustrates the global poverty rate over time between the period of 1980 to 2010. And accordingly, this y-axis shows the percentage of the population who lives with $1.25 per day or less. And the small dots or the circles that are shown in the scatter plot, each represents a certain country. And then this trend line also shows the general progression of the change in global poverty rate over time between that certain period. And as you can see, the global poverty rates starting from 1980 to 2010 have been steadily decreasing in its own way. However, we were not able to completely terminate the idea of poverty within this global community. And to summarize it, this graph shows the idea that still 11 in 100 people still live in extreme poverty until nowadays, and that 1 in 5 people in developing regions live on less than $1.25 per day or less. Now, to take this idea of poverty in a more national view of Korea, it is said that 16% out of the whole population of Korea actually lives under the idea of extreme poverty. The idea that 16% of the whole population may seem to be a subtle amount of poverty rate. However, 60% is still a valid number that exceeds to a great extent the actual amount of poverty rate the UN is actually striving for, which is 0% of poverty rate. So, with this, the UN promotes certain smaller guidelines or indicators to ultimately achieve the number 1 SDG goal of no poverty, which are the following. These are some extractions of those indicators, and to read some of them out, by 2030, eradicate extreme poverty for all people everywhere. Number 2, by 2030, reduce at least by half the proportion of people living in poverty, and so on and so forth.
Now, these goals created by the UN motivated us greatly into creating goals of our own, goals specifically for youths in Korea. to Korea to help achieve no poverty. Our first goal is through various community-based work strategies and providing more job opportunities for every individuals, decreasing the amount of general poverty rate, especially senior poverty rate, by half until 2030. Now, this graph that you're seeing shows the poverty rate in South Korea in accordance to age group in 2011. This graph well illustrates how severe the problem of senior poverty is in South Korea. As you can see, as the age group's age increases, the poverty rate goes under a dramatic increase up to the point where age group 66 to 75 is taking up about half of the entire poverty rate. Now this is an image of this image is a reenactment of my personal experiences with people suffering from extreme poverty. I once volunteered to a program where you meet the people living in the slums for a few months and learn about their lives. The more I learned about their lives, the more evident it came to me that above all, these people needed the attention and recognition of the general public towards their issues. Now, the reason why I thought public awareness was the most necessary thing to come was because some of the people I met while participating in this program did have a family that could support them, but they simply refused to support those people and left people who did not have the ability to sustain themselves in the slums. Now, I thought if the general public was more aware of this problem, I thought things like this would not happen.
The second goal is decreasing the poverty rate of social minorities, and this by half, more specific to the disabled. Now for this goal, we have specific mentioned that we aim to drop poverty rate among the disabled. According to the UN, there are approximately 650 million people with disabilities in the world. And as you can see, 1/5 of the world's population suffering from disabilities. And we prepare two specific goals. The first goal would be increasing the expenses on disability benefits, which is a goal derived from recognizing that among all the finance, only a small amount of the expenses are used to support the disabled to fulfill their basic needs. The second goal is to implement a quota system to hire a certain percentage of the disability. And since the disabled are having a hard time finding jobs and very manage their everyday life.
As we are global citizens, which means we care about the world that we live in, we have a goal to achieve in a global stage. The first goal is to provide fair opportunities to earn what every individual deserves. And this can be achieved by actualizing the fair trade and encouraging them to be accumulating. And the second goal is to fulfill the basic needs of all individuals with a minimal use of resources. We can achieve this by two ways. The first way is by the help of NGOs such as the Beautiful Store in Korea. The Beautiful Store sells old and worn out items to raise money for charity. And the second way is to help people stand on their own feet, which can be achieved by teaching them practical skills for industrial development.
Then specific to this number one goal, what could youth do? The foremost simple idea that we identified that youth could do was to help the community grow awareness of issues regarding poverty while also suggesting feasible implications global citizens could achieve. And this growth of awareness would happen through the use of social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr, and so on and so forth. And the reason for why we aim to grow awareness through the use of social media platforms is because youth is identified to be the generation who has the promotes effectiveness on those social media communities. Next slide, please. The second idea that we came up with was to promote the idea of growing small amounts of donations or funds by taking into action the idea of saving unused small amounts of change in the every end of the day. The amount of change saved a day may be just few cents or even 1 cent, but taking into consideration the fact that so many change ends up stacking up unused after a certain amount of time, we came up with this idea that if not use it, just use it for others who are in great need of those little amounts of money. So with this, we promote the idea that youth should definitely take into action our newly designed grant entitled the SDGs, which is abbreviated for Save Your Change for Others.
Now, these are some examples of businesses or organizations youth could support in order to decrease poverty. UNICEF, Green Neighbors, Green Umbrella, and Beautiful Store. Now, NGOs that support fair trade, such as the Beautiful Store, is an example of an initiative that donates their whole income to fund those who are suffering from poverty. Now, these are some of the organizations that support the promotion of the SDG number 1, no poverty. UNICEF, Good Neighbors, and Green Umbrella.
Now I will elaborate on some examples of the implementation of governmental laws supporting the promotion of the no poverty. However, as young students, we were not able to significantly identify which legislation support the decrease of poverty. Yet, we could identify the fact that generally a number of Korea legislation aim to first, guarantee people's basic living. Second, provide living, medical, residential, educational support. Third, provide pensions for aged individuals, and so on and so forth. Now, finally, to briefly introduce some of the impactful work some Korean celebrities are achieving for the fulfillment of the ultimate goal of the no poverty. Jang Kim, Nara Jang, and Jae-dong Kim will support squarely to the funding of diverse poverty-related organizations.
Now that was the end of our presentation, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Just one quick comment. Gino, that was great. Great story to hear about some of your work when addressing poverty. So I was really glad that there was a personal story involved with your presentation. So thank you for sharing that.